Even though it's still early days, it appears that Tesla might become the biggest gas station the world has ever seen. Plus, it looks like Tesla's AI team is becoming very confident in their full self-driving capabilities. Let's take a look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. I'm going to start with something that Sawyer Merritt actually spotted a couple of days ago, and Elon Musk agreed to this, and that is if you go on Tesla's order page, this is actually for the Model 3 as it turns out, but it doesn't really matter which model you get, you notice that now under full self-driving capability, number one, it's only $12,000 as opposed to $15,000, which is a big deal. I talked about that in a recent video, so you can check that out if you're interested in it, but the important part right here is auto steer on city streets. That has been a sort of coming soon feature for a long time, and that has moved from being a coming soon feature to a current feature. And while this doesn't change the way that you drive a vehicle right now, because of course you can see the currently enabled features require active driver supervision and do not make the vehicle autonomous. So they haven't really changed the nature of the driving. You still have to hold the steering wheel, you still have to give it, it's got steering wheel nag, all of that kind of stuff. But they've moved the auto steer on city streets from a coming soon to a beta to now it's officially here. And that is a really good sign in the confidence that Tesla has in their driving ability. And I think that that's actually a fairly warranted confidence. Even with 11.4.7, I'm seeing really incredible results. It's driving very, very well under almost all circumstances. If you haven't seen my first drive with 11.4.7, I'll show that up here. And of course, after Elon Musk and Ashok Elaswamy's drive around Palo Alto, we get a really good sense of what full self-driving version 12 is going to be like. And again, Elon has tweeted out that full self-driving version 12 was no longer going to be beta. It was just going to be version 12. So again, we'll see if that actually happens. We'll see if there's too much optimism bias, but things appear to be moving in a somewhat official capacity here, since this is on Tesla's actual sales page. And now let's move on from Tesla's full self-driving advancements to what they are doing in the supercharging arena. So here we have a Microsoft reprint of a Wall Street Journal from a couple of days ago that's titled "Tesla Leads the Race to Draw Federal Money for Charging Networks." And of course, the important part of this article is right here. The electric vehicle maker is building charging stations cheaper and faster than competitors. As a result, Tesla is scooping up millions of dollars in federal grant awards for building roadside chargers with bids that are about half the cost of what its rivals have offered. And just a little more from this article, and of course I'll leave a link to it in the description so you can read it yourself. The company is installing large banks of chargers at a faster clip than others and has said it can do so at a cost of 20% to 70% lower than its rivals. It plans to fit its chargers with connectors that work with Teslas or other kinds of cars, qualifying it for federal money. So far, Tesla is the winning bidder to build chargers at about 18% of the sites selected by states using the federal dollars to fund its fast chargers. And by the way, given how much cheaper it is to install a Tesla charger, I'm not sure why it's only gotten 18%. That seems very, very suspect. Still, it's more than any other company, according to data from EV Adoption, an EV and charging analytics firm. Tesla has won around $8.5 million of the roughly $77 million awarded so far, and there's a lot left to go on that front. 5 states, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maine, and Colorado, have selected winners at this point, and full details on sites and designs aren't yet available. Tesla's bids averaged around $392,000 a site, compared with an average of $795,000 from others. And this part gets really crazy. In most cases, Tesla plans to install 8 chargers and in some cases a dozen, while most companies are sticking to the minimum required by the federal government, at least 4 fast charging ports at a station. So in other words, they're charging about double the price that Tesla is charging to install these things, but they're only installing about half of the number of chargers. More on that in a minute, but first let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN or virtual private network, and it's the best way to stay safe on the internet. Without a VPN, websites, your internet service provider, and even apps on your phone can track you. Surfshark hides your IP address, masking your identity, and you can use it anywhere from any device. In fact, it runs on unlimited devices. If you have blocked content at home, you can pretend you're from another country to stream video or other content right to your phone or TV. So you can stream video or other content you can't get in your country. Or if, like me, you travel a lot and you can't get a specific Netflix show in the country you're in right now, you can pretend to be back in the United States with one simple click. Connect to a US server and watch away. You can now do banking or other sensitive work from a public Wi-Fi system like a coffee shop. No more worrying about somebody snooping in on your security details. Surfshark also lets you protect your sensitive searches from prying eyes. So you can search search for answers to your questions without worrying about somebody looking over your shoulder. As an added bonus, you can even get better deals when you're shopping online, since online stores are not able to track you and know where you live. For travel and other online shopping, this could save you a ton. And there's so much more. Be sure to use my link in the description to get an extra 3 months for free. If, like me, you worry about your online privacy and want access to the global internet, there's no better way to surf the world safely than Surfshark. Remember to use my link to get an extra 3 months free, and thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. And now let's get back to it. So first of all, how is this happening? It's happening because Tesla has spent over 10 years, like about 11 or 12 years, building superchargers, and they've gotten really good at it. And of course, Tesla has vertically integrated building superchargers as well as building cars and other things. So they are able to do it very, very much cheaper because they built so many more, and they've got it vertically integrated, and they have factories that do it at very, very high rates of speed. And of course, the fact that Tesla can build their superchargers much more quickly than other companies also plays into the fact that they can make them more cheaply, because of course if you can only build one fast charger per hour at your factory and it takes 50 employees or something, then that means that the cost of the factory plus all 50 employees goes into that one fast charger, whereas if Tesla can build like 8 or 10 of them, it gets spread out over that many more superchargers. And so of course the cost is going to be a lot less because Tesla can build more of these per hour. But still, the fact that Tesla charges half or less of what other companies are to do an installation, and then they put in double or more the superchargers that these other companies are putting in, means that Tesla is on the order of 80 or 90% cheaper per charging stall, which again makes me really wonder why they only have 18% of the bids that they've won. That seems really, really small considering that they are outbidding pretty much everybody else. The other piece of the puzzle that comes with being able to build these superchargers faster than anybody else is not just the cost, but of course the ability for Tesla to install these things very, very rapidly. We just had a new 250 kilowatt supercharger put in Athens, and they installed it in about a week. And I think that was all in. I was out of town for part of that, so I don't know exactly how many days. It was somewhere between 7 and 10 days though. And that's between having a, just asphalt in a parking lot, to tearing it up, to putting in the superchargers and all the electrical back end and all of that kind of stuff, to having it up and running. That's like a week or 10 days for 8 new stalls that they installed. And nobody else is able to do it at that kind of speed. And what that means, of course, is that not only is Tesla building these for less per charger, but they're able to install them quickly, which means that federal dollars or not, they're able to go after the most prime locations. And of course, if Tesla can scoop up the most prime locations, that means that every other charging company that wants to come in and compete with them is either going to have to do the gas station thing and move across the street from them. So, have you ever seen those gas stations that have like 4 gas stations at each corner of an intersection or something? Anyway, they'll have to do something like that and compete directly with Tesla, which means that people will be able to comparison shop and go, well, number one, are these chargers actually working? And Tesla superchargers are pretty much always working. I think it's 99.6% uptime. I mean, it's really incredible. But anyway, so people will be able to compare whether it's working or not, and they'll be able to compare prices directly and the speed of charging. So people will probably go to Teslas unless somebody comes out with a much better product. Or of course, the other option for these companies is for them to move to a place where Tesla isn't. But the likelihood is, because Tesla's been building these out so quickly, that they've taken the good spots that have a lot of traffic and a lot of charging needs. And so your spot is not going to get as much traffic, and it's not going to be as popular, and you're not going to get as many people charging there, which means you make less money in the end. And one thing I did talk about in a recent video, which you can find right up here, is that Tesla does need to put in some sort of signage. They need to be able to say, what is the current price per kilowatt hour to charge. And then I would suggest that they have some sort of a thing that shows what it's going to be like over the next 12 hours. So you can make a judgment. You can go like, ooh, that's pretty expensive right now. I'll come back in a few hours and I'll charge then, when it's going to be like half the price. But regardless of the signage, you can already see Tesla taking all of the good spots. And of course, with them making the North American charging standard a North American charging standard, and it's actually being approved as that, more and more companies are getting on board with that, which means that people will be using Tesla's plug-in charging port, which will make it very, very easy for even people driving other cars like Ford, Mercedes, GM, etc., to come into a Tesla supercharger and charge there. And what that means is that Tesla is able to become the world's, or at least North America's, gas station, basically. Like I said in the intro, I know it's a charging station, not a gas station, but I'm thinking about that equivalent where instead of having BP and Shell and ExxonMobil and Valero and whoever else out there, competing with each other all around, we may actually get to a point where Tesla has some monopoly issues because they just may have so many of the charging stations in the United States and Canada at the very least, and possibly Europe as well, that they might eventually fall afoul of monopoly issues. But that's for the future. In the meantime, I really don't see any way that, assuming that electric vehicles take off like they look like they're going to, they've pretty much reached the tipping point globally and in most countries of about between 5 and 10%, at which point it just rapidly adopts and you don't really have to do anything about it. Assuming that that actually happens and we get to 80% EV penetration, at some point, even conservatively within the next 10 years by 2033 or something, where are people going to charge? They're either going to charge at home or they're going to go to a Tesla supercharger. There's not going to be that much competition for them. And of course, this is all thanks to Tesla laying the groundwork a decade or more ago and actually building these things out when nobody was giving them money, nobody was giving them credence, everyone was laughing at them and saying what a waste of money it was. Well, they are reaping the rewards, and some projections put Tesla's eventual revenue from this at $100 billion a year. So this is no joke. It seems in the United States, the best competition for Tesla right now is Electrify America. But of course, Volkswagen, it becomes more and more evident that they basically built Electrify America because they had to, because they were being punished for Dieselgate. But instead of taking that opportunity and making a great charging solution, they actually made a poor one because they didn't really want people buying electric vehicles. And of course, we've got Stellantis and others saying that they're going to combine together to build their own charging solution, which will compete with Tesla, but they're not even supposed to begin to put in these stations until 2025 at the earliest, which is a very, very long time. Tesla, again, they're going to take all the good spots by 2025, especially with the US federal government helping to subsidize them putting in more stations. So again, I'll repeat, I just don't know who's going to catch Tesla on the supercharging front. I just don't see it happening. And here's the interesting thing. There are a lot of gas stations out there, and you might say these gas stations will be resistant to this change, but I'm actually seeing the opposite of that. And this is just from my own perspective, and definitely let me know in the comments if you know other large chains that are doing this. But I've seen Buc-ee's, and of course that's out of Texas, so the Midwest and the South, and Wawa, which is on the East Coast, and Sheetz, which is more on the East Coast, and even REI, which is not a gas station, but I'll throw them in because I've seen several superchargers near REI stores, so I think that's really cool. But in terms of gas stations don't really make much money from gas. It's just a break-even product. They try to make a tiny profit from that to get people to walk into their stores and purchase drinks and food and other items. And that, of course, is where they make their money. So actually, rather than being resistant, Buc-ee's, Wawa, Sheetz, etc., are actually probably trying to get Tesla to come there and put in their superchargers. Because, of course, somebody who comes in and fills up with gas, they might spend 4 or 5 minutes, like putting in the gas, and they have to hold the gas pump generally or stand right next to it, so they can't go into the store as conveniently. But of course, with an electric vehicle, and especially a Tesla, you're looking at 15, 20, 25 minutes or something would be an average stay that somebody would do. But you also plug it into the car and you don't have to stand there, which means that you can go into the store for the entire time. And that means that you're shopping for 15 or 20 minutes, and that makes these companies much happier than just selling you some gas. And of course, now Tesla even has a form on their website where you as a company can request to have Tesla superchargers put in at your location. And so my prediction is that not only will more gas stations, but other companies and strip malls and things like that will start competing to get Tesla superchargers put in their area. And of course, if everybody's clamoring for superchargers, Tesla can prioritize where they think the best locations are, and they have all the data because they have 1 million plus cars on the road in North America already. So they can actually look where everybody's going. They can figure out where people are, going and charging and stopping and doing things like that, and they can proactively place their charging stations, right where all the people are, which of course creates a virtuous cycle because people will see superchargers at the place that they already go, which will mean that they're going to want to come back to that place and charge up while they go shopping or do whatever it is that they do. And that of course will not only make Tesla, but all of these retail outlets very, very happy as well. And then finally, let's not forget that Tesla is making some of their own supercharging environments. They have the really, really big big one, the kind of 50s themed diner that they're putting up in Santa Monica right now. And of course, next time I go see my brother, I'm definitely going to go check that one out. But that means not only is Tesla putting in superchargers at other people's gas stations and other people's retail locations, but they're looking at and actually constructing superchargers at their own retail locations, which means that they get to take all of the money rather than just a little part of it. So again, number one, federal money or not, who is going to catch Tesla in terms of installing superchargers as quickly as Tesla is doing? And of course, with the federal money, they can do it even faster and more efficiently than they could before. Who is going to charge as little as they do per kilowatt hour, because these other ones are so much more expensive that these companies have to charge more per kilowatt hour to make the money back? And finally, what gas stations and what retail outlets would not want a Tesla supercharger there? And all of this together means that I really feel like Tesla is potentially going to get a monopoly by about 8 or 10 years from now on the fast EV charging front, and that is going to generate them a huge amount of revenue and become quite the income stream that I think most people are really sleeping on right now. And of course, much sooner than that, Tesla is indicating they really think that full self-driving is going to be coming out of beta soon. And by a couple of years from now, hopefully we will be able to just close our eyes and go to sleep in the car, and it will take us wherever we want to instead of us having to drive. In fact, it could take us to one of Tesla's superchargers. All right, I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it fun and interesting and thought-provoking. If you did, please do like it so other people can find it, and of course, consider subscribing for more of this kind of content. As always, a huge shout out to my patrons on Patreon, my YouTube channel members, and of course my ex-subscribers. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel in any way that you can. And of course, if you want to join any of the teams, just check out the links in the description. And if you're interested in a whole bunch of really cool merch, check out our merch store. Link is in the description. We have TeslaBot t-shirts, the Tesla meme t-shirt, Success is a Possible Outcome, 4680 battery cells. All of that stuff is on t-shirts, mugs, tumblers, and on and on. So check it out. And finally, thanks once again to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. Check out my link in the description and get an extra 3 months for free. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.